What's the best aperture for night street photography? Let's get into it. I'm back and we're heading into that time of year when the days get shorter, and this time of year is my time, nighttime. So it's a new season, I've got new clothes on and a new moustache. When it comes to shooting at night, one of the most important decisions you'll make is choosing your aperture setting. In my opinion, f2.8 is the perfect aperture for capturing night street shots. It lets enough light into the lens to properly expose your shots when coupled with the right ISO settings and the right shutter speed settings, which we'll get into later. So we're going to get into why f2.8 works so well for night street photography and how you can use it to get the best results. Let's jump straight in. Aperture controls how much light enters the lens and reaches your camera's sensor. At night, when you're working with minimal light sources, such as street lights or shop lights, getting as much light as possible is essential to expose your shots properly. That's where f2.8 comes in. It opens your lens wide enough to gather the available light. With my Ricoh GR3 and GR3X, I always shoot at f2.8 at nighttime. And with these cameras, even at f2.8, you don't get that intense shallow depth of field that you get from DSLRs and mirrorless cameras with interchangeable lenses. Instead, if you're standing at the right distance away, you can capture both the subject and the background clearly, which is exactly what you want in street photography. The background is just as important as the subject. It tells the story of the scene. So unless you want to isolate your subjects from the background, keep in mind that even at f2.8, if you're far enough away from the subject, you'll still get a deeper depth of field. You might be thinking, why not go even wider, such as f1.8 or f1.4? While these apertures let in more light, they also create a much shallower depth of field, which can make it harder to keep both your subject and the background sharp, even if you're standing far away from your subject, and especially at nighttime. And in street photography, when capturing the full environment is important, this isn't always ideal. So f2.8 strikes the perfect balance. It allows enough light in to capture the scene, especially when you hit a dark area like the Wipers Castle here, while maintaining sharpness and detail in both the subject and the background. That's what you need when shooting night scenes. Every detail in the environment adds to the story that you're trying to tell in your photos, and f2.8 helps preserve that. On the other hand, you might be tempted to go narrower, like f4 or beyond, thinking it will give you even more depth of field. But this has its own problem. Narrowing your aperture at night lets less light into the lens, and in low light this can cause your exposure to darken significantly. This means that if you're in aperture priority like I am, unless you're using auto ISO, as I'm doing here to cap it at 6400, the camera will increase the ISO to a point which will add unwanted noise, and it will also start to slow down the shutter speed too much, which will cause your subject to be blurred. Let's talk about how f2.8 works in combination with other settings, particularly auto ISO and minimum shutter speed. Auto ISO is great to use at nighttime because you can set a broad range for your ISO so that you're covered if you enter dark streets or brighter areas where there are potentially more or even less streetlights and shop lights illuminating your scene. And when you couple that with a minimum shutter speed, such as 1/80th of a second or 1/100th of a second, which are both slow enough to keep your camera's shutter open for enough time to let more light in, whilst being just fast enough to still freeze your subjects, then you're onto a winner, baby. I rely on Auto ISO for all of my street photography, and I thank the Auto ISO gods every single night for this great feature. At night time, setting your Auto ISO between 800 to 6400 is a decent broad range for any nightlight situation you encounter. It helps to know what minimum shutter speed you can comfortably freeze your subjects at. For this most recent shoot, I set a minimum shutter speed of 1/80th of a second, but I know I can freeze subjects slower than this. And you need to know this because if you enter a dark street and the ISO hits 6400 and there's still not enough light to make the exposure, the shutter speed will drop below whatever minimum shutter speed that you set, such as 1/100 seconds. If you know that you can handhold the camera and freeze subjects at slower shutter speeds than the minimum that you set, then you're onto a winner. I can freeze subjects at around 1/20th of a second, and I've got a disability where I have to keep the camera mounted on a selfie stick, which also makes me look somewhat ridiculous. So if I can freeze subjects at these slow shutter speeds, then so can you. Therefore, shooting at f2.8 keeps everything balanced. By allowing more light into your lens, you don't need to push the ISO too high, which helps keep noise under control. Even when the Auto ISO hits the maximum of ISO 6400, the noise level is manageable because with Auto ISO, the camera is letting enough light reach the sensor through the right combination of the f2.8 aperture and shutter speed, leading to a proper exposure. At f2.8, autofocus performance also works well in low light conditions. On my Ricoh cameras, I use auto area autofocus in the center mode. I've found that f2.8, the autofocus still locks on quickly. Even when there's minimal light, I still get a decent hit rate with my Ricoh cameras, and they're not known for their snappy autofocus capabilities. So depending upon your camera brand and how you like to shoot, choose the focusing system that works well for you. Also, make use of the available light sources at night time. Street lights and shop lights and even car headlights are all useful light sources when shooting at f2.8. The aperture plus your Auto ISO and minimum shutter speed settings allow you to capture enough of that light without losing detail in the background so that your images remain sharp and full of context. And finally, I recommend keeping things simple by using aperture priority mode with Auto ISO and a minimum shutter speed. This setup allows you to focus on composition and timing without constantly having to adjust your settings. The camera handles the technical side, whilst you can concentrate on capturing that perfect composition with the right subject. But you might have completely different settings for your night street photography shooting. I'd love to know what they are, so please let us know down below. So f2.8 is great. Use it before it gets too late. That's terrible, isn't it? However, if you want to know why the seaside is the best place for all kinds of photography, then check out this video here. Until we meet again, go forth and create.